Welcome to Vantage Point, conversations with our elected representatives and senators who serve in the state capitol in Des Moines. We hope that these conversations are going to give you a special vantage point as you hear their views about what goes on behind the scenes. My guest today is Representative Mary Mascher. Mary, welcome.
Thank you,
Thanks
Jean.
for coming.
Glad to be here.
Now, I happen to know something about your background and what you do in your other job. But why don't you start by just telling us something about where you grew up and where you went to school and.
I'd be glad to. I'm a state representative right now and represent District 77 in the Iowa House. And most of my career I've been a teacher. I taught elementary school in Iowa City for 33 years. I retired as of June, so I am no longer in the classroom and enjoying the opportunity to spend more time with my legislative job. One of the things that I have missed terribly is that contact with the kids and some of my faculty members at Weber, where I taught for over 11 years. And but it was a great experience, and I think it lends itself really well in terms of working in the legislature and understanding what goes on in Iowa classrooms. So that has been a unique opportunity and a great experience for me. I grew up in rural Johnson County. I'm a native to the area, and grew up on a farm outside of Iowa City, about 8 miles outside of Iowa City on the IWV road. My parents farmed. We had a family of 12, so I was number 6 in a family of 12, good Catholic farm family. And that experience obviously helped shape me and who I am. And I still love going back to that farm and spending time out there with the family. It's really an important part of my life. My parents have always been involved in politics. As young as I can remember, Dad was actively involved in the NFO, which was the National Farmers Organization. And at that time, they were trying to work with farmers around the country, basically to work together for price improvements in terms of for corn and beans and hogs and cattle. And Dad actively worked on those campaigns and obviously was involved in boycotting in terms of selling their pork and all of that. And I remember those meetings and activities in terms of learning at his knee and being impressed by that and understanding the importance of working together with others to be able to get something done. Mom was kind of the behind-the-scenes person, and she did a lot with actively working on campaigns. I think she worked on so many different supervisor races, worked on a lot of Harkins race, just different candidates that she had really believed in and supported. Michael Dukakis, when he was running for office, was one of Mom's favorites, and he stayed at our home. And they had a farm meeting where they brought in farmers from around the area to talk to him about their farm issues. He didn't know a lot about farming.
No, he didn't.
And as an Easterner from the Boston area, it was one of those things where he said, teach me. Tell me what it's like to be a farmer. Tell me what your issues are and help me understand that. And so Mom and Dad were more than happy to do that and enjoyed that immensely. But I feel like I've kind of come up through the ranks in terms of learning that politics at my parents' knee and learning what that's all about. And they were also very active and said, you need to give back. You need to give back to the society that you have benefited from. And so Dad was a school board member. I have 2 other family members who are on the school board. I have a sister who's on the city council in North Liberty currently. Many of my family members have been involved in different boards and commissions and, at the local level and are pretty active in terms of in their communities. And
well, was it just expected that you would run for office someday, or how did that idea come about?
I don't know that it was expected, but I think it was one of those things where I worked on a lot of campaigns too. And at one point when the office, that particular seat came open, people said, Mary, why don't you run? And I immediately thought, oh, I can't do that, And I thought, Well, they said, why not? You know, you've been doing this for a long time and you've been involved in politics. We think it's your turn and you should do this.
And whose
so
seat was it that you...
This was Mary Newhouser's seat. And Mary had run for the Senate, and so that left that seat open, and it was an opportunity, and I felt like I was ready and took the plunge. So, and have never regretted that. I have benefited so much from that experience and just have learned so much about the political process through the years, and feel very strongly about the importance of that work. You were in the legislature, you know the rewards in that kind of a job.
In fact, I think the seat you're holding is more or less the seat that I held.
Exactly,
yeah,
that's exactly
Mary
right.
followed me, and then you followed Mary.
Yes,
yeah.
that's exactly right.
Yeah. Tell us about how you were perceived when you first came to the legislature representing Johnson County.
Yeah.
Was it difficult for you? Of course, with a farm background, you would
Yeah.
fit in better than most of the Johnson County representatives. But
well, and you know, there are challenges for women who go into politics. There is no doubt about it. It's been predominantly men for many years. That's no different in the Iowa legislature, both in the House and Senate. But we certainly have made a stand, and I think when I came in, the Women's Caucus was still pretty active, and people were involved in that, and I know you were involved in helping start that. But it's a great support network, and it's also a way for women to be able to find common ground. And I think women tend to be really willing to do that. We think sometimes differently, and I think that's a good perspective to bring to the legislative process and to politics. And I think there's some value in having that diversity. We need more of that representation. I never miss the opportunity when I'm talking to young girls or working with other community groups to talk about recruitment and how we need young, good women in the political process, and that you plant that seed. You talk about, you know, see yourself and view it, and then start building your resume. Get involved in boards and commissions. Do the things you need to be able to build the resume to get into the office. But in terms of once I got there, it was somewhat of an eye-opener in terms of how you were perceived. Many people immediately assumed we were secretaries or clerks to another representative. Didn't see us and view us because there were so few women that were serving that we would actually be the one that was elected. And that takes some time to get people past that and to change. You know, I brought them up short. I always let them know that I was the elected one, and thank you very much. Please don't forget that. And I think, you know, you constantly are faced with those kinds of issues because people tend to assume that it has to be a man that's been elected to those positions when it's not.
right. Just take a minute and describe the boundaries of your district now.
Sure.
Just number 77.
It's House District 77, and I represent the western half of Iowa City.
Okay.
I do have most of the campus area in the downtown area, and then it goes over to Mormon Trek Boulevard, and that's my western border, and then back over towards the campus area. And so it's a great district. Vicki Lensing has the other half of Iowa City, and then Joe Bolcom is our senator for both districts.
And then your district would be half of Bob Dvorsky's Senate district.
Half of Joe Bolcom's.
Of Joe Bolcom's.
Correct. Senate district. That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you're going to be redistricted in a few couple of years coming
In 2012, the state goes through a process of redistricting. I think we have one of the best systems in the nation in terms of how we do that redistricting. And I don't know if you were involved in writing
I
that
was,
or not.
as a matter
I had
of
a
fact.
feeling you just might have been. But
because of the League of Women Voters being in on challenging the reapportionment plan that had been adopted. And then when I was elected, I was appointed to State Government Committee and the Subcommittee on Reapportionment.
Wonderful.
So it was
well,
such
thank you, because
it was very interesting work.
Well, it's been a wonderful system and process because it truly is nonpartisan. And we don't do gerrymandering or work on